You are listening to the audiobook Veilshatter, Legends of Elyndar, now available on Amazon, Audible, and wherever books are sold. Featuring our three unforgettable heroes, an epic adventure begins.
Words, beneath the storm. Mist bled through the latticework of Windrest's lowest arches, painting the avenues in ghostlight and grief. Veyran walked unhurried, as if speed might signal guilt, and guilt draw eyes he could not afford. The city, usually alive with soaring laughter and shouts from windropes, now clung to a watchful hush. Lanterns guttered on their thin wires, illuminating puddles that reflected not sky but pulsing sigil marks, the recent storm's signature. He paused beneath the outstretched arm of a thundervane, a brass giant in the shape of an ancient skybird, its wings beaded with water and runework. A strip of blue-gray silk fluttered from its claw, the city's sign for morning stormwork left unfinished. Veyran allowed his breath to slow against the ache in his ribs, rubbing one hand along the rod at his belt, willing it to assure him, to glow, to be anything but the cold relic it now was. A child watched from atop the steps, a commons boy, his hair wound in the city's telltale knots, clutching a whistle shaped like a sun shard. He flinched, but did not retreat. Above, a Vayrilian songbird circled, trailing rainbows in flickering arcs before vanishing into cloud. The silence, pregnant with storms past and yet to come, pressed on. Veyran turned away before the child could gather courage to speak. Past the bridge, market stalls leaned together in huddled rows, colors dulled, their protective sigils blurred by water. From somewhere deep within the warren of Windvine, the faint rhythm of hammers rang, the menders setting runes anew, patching the city's memory as best skill allowed. How could he explain to them that not all wounds could be sealed with patience and runecraft, that some storms burrowed into bone and marrow, and the world's scars sang long after rain faded? He let his shoulders sag, the only outward sign of anguish he'd show. You bear every cost, as if pain were a debt expected and owed. The voice stole across the drizzle, softer than the first sigh of dawn, unmistakably Zephrasin's. But gone was the tempest's edge, the shape of breaking clouds. This voice was low, shaped in the cadence of remembered comfort, a warmth trod with it parting the lingering mist. Veyran did not startle. His steps faltered, then carried him under the shelter of an archway where the world was still, save for the slow drip of old rain. Zephrasin shaped herself there, coalescing from the vapors, no longer all bladed wind and wild lightning, but a tall figure swathed in motes of glowing cloud, the curve of jaw and brow rendered nearly mortal, the flicker of irised eyes uncertain. For a moment, neither spoke. Companionship dwelled in that pause, a relief sharper than pain, as rare as trust. She watched him with something akin to sorrow. He managed. You warned me. He forced a half-smile, lips trembling at its edges. I heeded late. Zephrasin's gaze shimmered, distorting as if glimpsed through storm glass. You fight with mercy when the world bristles for war. You cling to tradition, though it crumbles in your grasp. Windrest is not the world, Veyran, nor are the sky-ring's decrees the whole song of fate. Thunder grumbled distantly, but here, beneath the archway, Zephrasin's voice was as gentle as skyrack after tempest. I have walked the eaves of this city with you since childhood, Veyran Arctelos. I have sung your first spell, and mourned your last regret. But I am not your conscience, nor your chain. I come only to bear witness. A memory snagged him. Bare feet on wet slates, a storm gathering, two hands grasped in delight as Zephrasin taught him how to twist wind into laughter. Was it so distant, or just cloaked by the darker weight of years? It's never as simple as the ring claims, Veyran whispered. mercy and tradition. They shaped me both, and both have broken me in turn. Am I meant to cast one aside, to trade love for law, or lose myself chasing a kinder fate? Zephrasin stepped nearer. Her form, only nearly human, rippled with a grace no mortal could match. Cloud and heat, memory and myth. There is no law without heart, and no mercy without risk. But there comes a fissure, one you cannot straddle, or all is lost. You must give up one, else both will burn to ash. Beneath the words smoldered a personal plea, not order, not augury. A soft hand, was it real now? Touched his cheek, fingers cool as first rainfall. Her thumb brushed away a tear he had not known lingered. If you do not choose, the storm will. He shut his eyes. The archway, the city, even the steady thrum of exhausted magic, receded behind Zephrasin's presence. Her power was neither welcome nor hostile, but it bid him reckon honestly with the crossroads yawning ahead. He reached for speech, found it tangled. If I cast aside mercy, I am Arun's image, and the ring will forgive nothing. If I break tradition, Windrest will never trust me, even if it survives. Yet if I do not try, all this suffering returns. The memory storms, worse each time. Someone else will die, someone who trusts me to shield them. Zephrasin's eyes softened, gray as the sky just before its shattering. The archipelago needs more than shields and spells. It needs someone willing to change the pattern, or it will drown beneath it, and not even I can keep you above the tide. Her hand fell away. All at once, her form blazed brighter and became less solid. The lines that mimicked flesh dissolving into swirling fog outlined in starlight. He let the words hang, asking silently for more, for guidance spelled clean and direct. But Zephrasin smiled, a gesture older than language, then leaned close, breath swirling cold and fragrant with the memory of violets atop Windrest's sky gardens. You have always tried to bear every storm yourself, Veyran. Perhaps it is time to decide which burden matters, rather than which is simply heaviest. What becomes of those who fail to choose? He asked, voice nearly stolen by the ache in his chest. Zephrasin drew back, her silhouette merging with the arch's misty shadow. Windrest falls, Uthura flinches, and far away, the shadow that watches tonight will see its chance. But more, every song you have loved is rewritten by regret. Her tone gathered force, quaking at the edges, as if worlds lay upon what she did not quite say. The city's hush trembled, then life thinned through it. The distant chant of menders, the measured toll of bells, the tap-tap of sign painters restoring protective wards. Beyond all, the horizon burned with a frosted blue line, dawn threatening the night's injuries. Zephrasin's form began to unspool, her luminance bleeding toward the mist. This is my last warning, Stormbreaker. Mercy or tradition. The storm will not wait for you again. My kin stir in the high clouds, and already word of tonight's sorcery runs from spire to spire. Trust in what binds you, not in what root you fear will rot. I will watch, as I always have. But soon, the watching will not be enough. A wind caught the archway, swirling Zephrasin's vaporous form until she shone only in outline, the shape of hope and threat tangled inseparably. Whatever you choose, you will not walk it alone, even if the city bars its doors. Remember that when the voices rise against you or silence falls too deafening to endure. With that, the presence faded, strands dissolving into pearl flecks that drifted upward, lost to the dome of clouds overhead. Veyran stood long after Zephrasin vanished, letting the meaning of her words settle into the cavities carved by exhaustion. A single raindrop traced his temple, seeping along his jaw. Around him, Windrith's great machinery groaned and hummed back to life, storm-wrecked but unbeaten. Mercy or tradition. Both had been twin pillars, holding his world aloft. If Zephrasin spoke true, his hesitation would see them shattered. The calculation was impossible. Exile or condemnation, his own heart or the whole of the city. A sudden warmth flickered in his palm. He looked down to find his rod, the sigil stone at its head, pulsing with a pale, stubborn glow. The old runes, heedless of exhaustion, attempted to reassure, a ghost of their usual power resonating up his arm. Not enough to work true magic, but enough to promise that effort yet remained in him. He straightened, gathering his cloak about him. Dawn pressed harder at the edges of night, sending beams through the ragged holes in the storm veil. The world expected a champion or a scapegoat, one to blame or perhaps to follow into the teeth of change. Feet scuffing damp stone, he moved toward Windrith's southern gate. Around him, the city woke, carrying the scars of what had passed, the anticipation of what might yet loom. He heard voices behind shuttered windows, speculation, thanks, suspicion, 1,000 judgments awaiting the wrong word or step. As he neared the outermost edge, a figure emerged from shadow, a street mender, her apron cut and dried with salt, a runic stylus tucked behind one ear. She bowed, respect and wariness mingling in the tilt of her head. "Stormbreaker," she murmured, "the sigils will hold, for now. May the wind guide you gentle." He nodded, gratitude catching in his throat unsaid. With Zephrasin's echo lingering, he stepped into the threshold, beyond which waited the sky roads curling east toward Maruna and the riddled fate of Avestra. Behind, Windrest lay battered but unbroken, a city craving stability, yet seeded with the bitter fruits of old law. Ahead, the distant thunder rolled, bearing the shadow Zephrasin foretold. At that edge between morning and promise, Veyran Artelos walked alone. But the wars between mercy and tradition raged on in his heart, unseen to any but the storm, the spirit, and the fading sigils that glimmered every few paces along the path out of his childhood sky.